Hello, friends. I hope you're doing well. It's Raquel from Infinite Succulent back with your energy forecast for the upcoming full moon in Sagittarius, which is happening on Saturday, June 3rd at about 8:40-ish p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you guys can figure out what time that is for you. So, the big theme that I identified for this Sagittarius full moon is to celebrate your potential. And there's a lot in that because this full moon actually wants us to celebrate. That, in fact, is kind of the harvest and the release part, believe it or not, of this full moon. But it also wants us to kind of really look at the bigger picture and dream bigger for ourselves, really believe in our potential as well. And Sagittarius, my husband's a Sagittarius. I have some personal relationship with this sign in particular, and of course, we have all the signs inside of us as well. Regardless of what our sun sign, our rising sign, or our moon sign is, we have all of the zodiac signs within our chart also. So anyway, going back to Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign, and immutable signs are the signs that are the most adaptable. Sagittarius is curious, super inquisitive, adventurous, a truth seeker. They're very much, people who are in Sagittarius are very much involved in education, coaching, research sometimes too, because they really want to get to the truth at things. But there's a sense of like playfulness and fun and real adventure that comes in with Sagittarius as well. Now, on the shadow side, because there's always a light and a shadow to everything, on the shadow side of Sagittarius, there can be kind of a lack of consistency and follow through. Like we can get really excited about the start of things and like getting things going, but then like the long-term dedicated commitment that sometimes it takes to like see things all the way through, that can be a little bit more difficult sometimes for Sagittarius. So that's just something to keep in mind. And we might even be feeling that a little bit with this full moon in particular. Now, a couple of things that came up for me when I was feeling into the energies of this full moon had a lot to do with also the sun being in Gemini. Now, Gemini is an air sign, also a mutable sign, adaptive. And Gemini to me always represents Gemini's displayed with the twins. And Gemini has always kind of represented to me that those two inner voices that we have, like that inner cheerleader and that inner critic, or some people like to call it like the low brain versus the higher brain, or the ego self versus the higher self, the soul self, that kind of dichotomy. And that kind of conversation that we have internally sometimes, where it can be like we can really be our own worst critic, with that voice that comes in that tells us that we're not good enough, that we'll never be good enough, that brings up all the doubts. That can be part of Gemini energy, but there's also the part of Gemini energy that pairs with Sagittarius really well, which is very curious, inquisitive, social, conversational, and this part that also can really be the beautiful cheerleader for us, that can help us see our potential and really lean into all the gifts that we have, that we each have to bring to this world. So with this Sagittarius full moon in particular, we have a little bit of this push and pull between where we are and where we want to be. And kind of a little bit of a push and pull between like our desires and our reality, and common sense and fantasy or possibility as well. And some of what I was really feeling into with this particular full moon has to do with dreaming bigger, believing in our potential. And sometimes with full moons, before we get to that point of kind of larger illumination and release and like this kind of epiphany moment, we have a sense of emotional volatility, for lack of a better word, that comes through that really is the illumination. So to keep in mind, full moons are always about illumination and release. And because the moon represents our emotions, our emotional body, we will feel the illumination and the release within our emotional selves. We'll be illuminating certain emotions within us, and we'll be releasing certain emotions within us, hopefully, as well. And with this Sagittarius full moon, what I've already been feeling is some of these emotions that come up that kind of keep us within our limiting beliefs, that keep us feeling as though what we want and what we see as our own potential doesn't feel attainable. It actually feels like we're so far away from that. So it almost can feel as if our desires are hurting us because it's keeping us from feeling joy in our present moment, because the desire is, and I've said this a lot to myself and to clients, you know, when we want something greatly, we often say, I want it so bad. I want it so bad, right? But that verbiage, that, and even that energy of wanting something so badly, I mean, think about that. We're actually pushing those things away. We want it badly. It hurts us. Our desire for it is actually hurting us. So with this full moon in Sagittarius, we actually have this opportunity to kind of flip that script. And instead of saying, I want this so badly, we can say, I want it so goodly. Like I want it so that my body can feel the expansion within that desire versus the constriction of not having it. And here's the thing about the human mind, and this is very Gemini as well. The human mind is really, really good. The brain is really, really good at finding the problems because that's what the brain wants to do. The brain wants to solve problems. It's a problem solver. Unfortunately, most of us don't really know how to use our brain well, and we allow our brain to kind of run amok and bring all these thoughts to the forefront and tell us how to feel and what we're thinking and who we are. And that's not really what the brain is for. We have intelligence all throughout our body. We have a mental intelligence, we have a heart-led intelligence, we have an instinctual gut-led intelligence. And for, you know, we also have this kind of like womb or like sexual intelligence too. So we have lots of ways to access our inner intelligence, not just the mind. And the mind isn't all of who we are. So with this full moon, we might be feeling as if there's just all these challenges in our way. And like what we want is so unattainable. And the brain will tell us that all of these challenges are way bigger than all of our successes. And so that is the illumination for this full moon, is to kind of recognize if our brain is doing that, if our brain is really amplifying and making bigger our problems and completely diminishing and minimizing all of our successes. So a really, really great practice for this full moon in particular will be to focus and celebrate your successes. And that's why I say the theme of this full moon is really about celebrating your potential. And part of celebrating your potential is celebrating who you already are, what you've already accomplished, and allow that to be the felt experience of what it is you still want to create, accomplish, do in your life, that potential as well. And there's lots of great ways to do that. Journaling is a great way, actually sitting down and writing on a piece of paper all the amazing things that you have done in your life, that you've completed, even within the last, 6 months. Write down all the things you've done, you've completed, that you're proud of, and giving yourself an opportunity to truly celebrate that. And that can look like a lot of different things. You can get together with some friends, you can take yourself out to a nice meal or get a nice, spa service. Just something to really celebrate your accomplishments is going to be a really beautiful way to work with this energy of this Sagittarius full moon. Now, of course, full moons being about that emotional release as well. One of the things that I really picked up on for this particular full moon is to use body movement as a way to release. And for me, one of my favorite ways to do that is actually through dancing. So not to be too cliche, but if there is a full moon that is great for you to get out and dance under, it would be this Sagittarius full moon. And what I like to do when I'm feeling a certain kind of way, like if I'm having some heavier, denser emotions and it's kind of making me feel a little, right? I actually like to put on a song that allows me to kind of lean into those emotions. So if I'm feeling kind of sad and nostalgic, or even a little bit like focusing on some of the sad things that have happened in the past, I'll put on a sadder song. And so I can move my body in that way that allows me to express my sadness. So if I'm feeling enraged or frustrated, I'll put on a song that's a little bit faster paced that allows me to express that rage and get that out. So I really allow myself to use the music that's going to mirror my mood and then move my body in a way that helps me process those emotions so they don't stay stuck inside of me. And what I often find when I'm doing a dance form of emotional release is that you'll feel it. And sometimes that feeling will grow and you'll actually cry or want to scream. And then you'll have this moment. Sometimes the song will help you do it, because sometimes these songs have this like build up and then this like release. And you can actually feel that happen in your emotion. You can almost feel when those denser emotions actually leave your body through the processing of the movement. So, for this Sagittarius full moon, don't be surprised if you feel limiting beliefs come up around who you are, what you've accomplished, and what you still desire to create and accomplish in your life. All right. If that does happen, please know this is the illumination for you for this full moon. And from that place of illumination, you can get clarity on what it is you want to release so that you can then celebrate all that you've already accomplished and believe again in what it is you still desire to create. This is also a beautiful, beautiful full moon for dancing, but also for making moon water and for putting your crystals out to be energized by the light of the full moon as well. This is our first full moon since eclipse season. And as I mentioned before in previous videos, I don't like to harness the energies of the lunar rays during eclipse season because they're intense and chaotic. But now we have a full moon post eclipse season. So a really beautiful time for making moon water and for putting your crystals out to be enhanced by the light of the moon. Thank you all so much for watching. If you are looking for journal prompts or more information about this full moon, check out my moon blog below. I will link it below. And if you're looking for some release rituals for the full moon as well, check out my book, Everyday Plant Magic. I will put that in the link below because I have some beautiful full moon release rituals in there as well. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks for our next new moon. Bye.